Welcome to the Insurance Playbook Podcast, the show that pulls back the curtain on the insurance industry and gives you the stories, strategies, and insider tips you need to win. Sponsored by Spark AI Partners. Now, today, we're joined by a true insurance veteran, Tareq Purmul. From biotech sales to building his own agency for nearly 2 decades, Tareq has mastered the world of commercial lines insurance and knows exactly what it takes to grow, adapt, and stay ahead in a changing market. In this episode, he reveals why referrals and cold calling still work, how to turn complex risks into lasting relationships, and why embracing technology is the difference between thriving and just surviving. Let's dive in. All right, guys, welcome to today's episode. I have Tareq Purmul. We're super happy to have him on here. Hopefully we can get some good info on his expertise here and really just understand what's made him so successful. So Tareq, do you mind rolling back? I know we briefly talked before. Tareq's out of La Jolla, by the way, San Diego area. But you take me back to AAA, where you started your career in insurance, and maybe even a little bit before that. What did you do before AAA? I know you went to college, but why did you get into the insurance industry? And then kind of take me through some of your trajectory to where you are now, owning the company or being an insurance agency owner.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to college actually also in La Jolla, UCSD, and graduated college with a double major, one in economics and one in biology. Went into sort of the business side of healthcare, worked for biotech and biomedical firms, and had really more a passion for entrepreneurship. So I started doing some research on different industries, and insurance stuck out. And so I wanted to first learn a little bit first. So I became a AAA agent, did really well as a sales agent there. Was one of the top sales agent for AAA in Southern California. But after a period, once you realize how well you can do in insurance, and also one of the main reasons people get into insurance versus other type of industries is for the residual income. And so opened up an agency in 2006. It's been quite a ride since then, but it was drastically different. Well, there's for sure a lot of difference in the industry, but some stuff is very similar to like biotech and biomedical. Both of them are very industries that are fairly recession proof comparative to other industries, and healthcare and insurance generally do well when it comes to tough times economically. But the sale was a little bit of a different sale. One of my strengths has always been sales. Been in sales for a very long time, and so the sales process came fairly naturally as far as a transition into insurance. But yeah, it's been graduated 2001, 24 years, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you say biotech and biomedical, I immediately think it just sounds like money to me. I'm like, those are big companies, a lot of money. Were you a salesperson in biotech and biomedical?
Yeah, I was on the sales side of it as well. And biotech was selling biotech equipment to hospitals, labs, medical facilities, and biomedical was selling medical instruments to similar target markets. Yeah. But on the sales side.
What was the crossover in terms of the sales process from that to insurance when you started at?
Yeah, it was a big, there was a crossover. There was definitely, I think the biggest thing is I was seeing other sales reps that had worked for the companies I was working for, and they were late 50s, 60s. They were making decent money, but they were still huffing and puffing at that age. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to do that. Like I was sort of seeing myself through them. And I was like, I'm not sure I want to be doing that at that age, where I'm having to put that level of effort, because sales, of course, takes quite a bit of effort. And then there's sort of the path into management, which there's definitely advantages too, but I was really more looking at it from an entrepreneurial eye, I guess you could say. So I was just like, there has to be some industry that's out there, or some business or some industry that I could go into and have others work for me and as opposed to sort of seeing myself in the shoes of the folks. And also, again, I think part of that was the residual part of insurance was really what stuck out to me. And also one of the tough things in biotech, biomedical, your prospects are very limited. Meaning, if you're selling biotech equipment or biomedical equipment, I was selling eye surgery, ophthalmology instruments. So in all of Southern California, there's a handful of ophthalmology surgery centers. So it was very limited. Whereas insurance, your prospects are really everyone. Sometimes with staff, I always take them outside and said, look, everything your eyes hit, there's an insurance policy on. We're pretty much like the water company or a cell phone company. Like everyone's a prospect.
Yeah.
So that sort of was another thing that was intriguing about insurance, as opposed to others where people sell cars, people sell homes, people sell all types of stuff. Their prospects are fairly limited. You have to be, what is it, 17% of Americans are homeowners, and then within the cycle of you being in the process of buying or selling a home, how many people does that come out to? Or same thing with cars.
Right.
The prospects. That was another thing that intrigued me about the insurance industry, was you have the ability to have quite a bit of, your prospects on who you could do business with was just unlimited.
And so owning Purmul Insurance Agency, how many agents do you have, or like, what is that like, and what is your day-to-day like?
Yeah. So right now we've gone through many transitions, especially after COVID, after we transitioned from being a farmer's agency to an independent agency. Right now there's 2 licensed agents on staff, including myself. And then I have another support staff of about 6 other employees that take care of various parts, like what we call processing, appointment setting, service work, some of that stuff. So we're staff size of 8 right now.
Okay. And then what does your day-to-day kind of look like? You wake up in the morning and what do you do?
Yeah. Wake up in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, and then get in the office. Mostly just sort of reviewing some of the reports and some of the bigger fires that we've been working on, and sort of reviewing what needs to happen on those, working with different staff and sort of seeing where they're at with the task and responsibilities for the day. I deal a lot more with like bigger commercial clients. We have quite a bit of personal lines clients, but the commercial clients are, and generally the more complex accounts I'm more dealing with, and the rest of the staff is sort of doing the day-to-day sort of service requests and getting documents over and so forth. But there's always some fire that needs to be put out, and a lot of times it's for a bigger account, or there's a big request, or we have an account we're trying to place that's very unique in their operations, and and not only do we end up placing them, but then they come back with some, oh well, we're thinking about going down this venture as well. And so sometimes going back and forth with underwriters to find out which market. Everyone who's been in the insurance world for a while, they know the broker has being a independent broker has a lot more work involved, in the sense that because there's so many possibilities, sometimes we're searching for markets. We may not write a lot of that line of insurance, but because we have a big commercial client who's now saying, hey, we're thinking about opening up another division that does this and we need insurance for it. So now we're looking for hydroelectric fuel trucking retrofitting company, which is sort of
Nick.
a merger of a lot of standard markets, but it's such, we get requests like those. So a lot of the sort of more, I guess you could say, more complex discussions I'm generally involved in, both with the clients and underwriters, or trying to find markets, and sometimes doing searches by talking to one underwriter. Hey, do you anyone who does this type of very unique thing? And oh, there, I heard something maybe opening up, or there's a company in Florida I think who does that. So some of it is just the search.
Yeah, yeah. So you have a full service agency, you write it all, but you mentioned maybe about 80% of your business is commercial right now. What made you decide to kind of focus on commercial, or was it just an organic focus where that's kind of the business you started getting, so you focused on that? How did that happen?
No, I think commercial drew me more. Obviously, outside of the larger premiums, it was the more complex. I guess the complexity sometimes also, like home and auto, is. I mean, for most people, I think you could master how to write home and auto in about 6 months, if not less than that.
Hmm.
So I think to keep yourself engaged also, I think like commercial is there's an engagement to it. There's some thrill in it. There's some intrigue in it because it's always changing as the world changes, insurance sort of adapts to it. And I think it does far more on the commercial side than it does personal.
Yeah.
Auto insurance has been roughly the same outside of maybe the technology that's out there to help distribute it or for a customer to access their documents. Outside of that, home and auto has been fairly consistent, but commercial has just drastically changed. Like the need for cyber liability now or EPL is a complete different need than it was 20 years ago. Now with AI and everything that's happening with that and amount of social engineering and other stuff that we're starting to see that happens. So it's just, I think anytime anyone's in an industry for a long time, after a period, they don't want to be in monotony. There's a want for them to keep learning, and sort of adjusting and adapting. And so I think that was part of it. And of course, the premiums for sure are also a draw in commercial.
A little bit larger fish to fry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say that as a barrier to entry of people trying to enter your space and be your competition, it sounds like with commercial lines, really it's your knowledge and ability to navigate all the changes is what sets you apart from your competition. So it's like a double edge, you if you enjoy learning and staying abreast of everything, then it's a strong advantage to you. But on the flip side, if that's not your thing, then you should probably stay out of commercial lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And also there's a lot of people, sure everyone knows, there's a lot of people, like insurance has a lot of turnover. So you get like what I call the short termers who come in, they sort of dabble their feet. They're not really that knowledgeable. They don't educate their clients much on what they have, even if it's auto policy, even if it's a home policy. Like most people, they do the standard, hey, you want liability or full coverage, and here's your premium. Let me walk you out the door type thing. So you get a ton of people who come in, and then you look back 2-3 years later, they're not in the industry. They're out selling cars or doing something else. So I think part of having the right mindset being in the industry is important because if you're educating your clients, you're able to understand something complex and be able to sort of in layman's terms, but go through the education of what this means and what it is and what this is alike to. Well, if you don't understand, let me give you some metaphors and something that you would understand. And then so part of that process, I think it takes patience and it takes a want to continue learning. I'm probably been in the industry for a very long time, but I'm probably in 2 or 3 webinars daily, which are just educational webinars.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard because, the day to day is happening, but my calendar is just filled with what's happening with different carriers and different industries. And I think that versatility helps a lot because I could talk to a transportation company and, know the full gamut of the different coverages and understand what's happening right now in transportation because there is a lot happening. And I could talk to a restaurant owner and know the full understanding of how to be able to explain coverage to them and understand what's happening with the different risks happening. So that versatility, I think, goes a long way. And most of the clients, whenever they're able to sort of understand that there's a lot of depth and I'm not a short timer, I'm not talking to them with the terminology of full coverage and you want liability and or full coverage and shake their hand, walk them out the door type approach, then I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know we're talking in some generalities here
Mhm. Yeah.
about, hey, this or that, like differences, but in specific, when I was researching, I found a couple reviews and people talked about your expertise and they said, hey, Tareq is amazing. He and his team are experts in the field. Is there a specific instance where you were helping one of your clients and that extra 2-3 webinars a day really came to fruition in order to help them better. Like, is there anything that jumps out at you that's like, oh, hey, I had this person, like the restaurant, for example, or whatever it was, where there was something specific that you were able to help with that maybe somebody else couldn't?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of instances. One that you just mentioned, restaurant. So we had a restaurant owner that was dealing with, and especially in California, the second highest claims outside of workers' comp in the restaurant industry is employment practices liability. So it's really important, and most business owners don't understand it. Like it's sort of a gap where especially lawyers, I don't mean to put down lawyers, but there's a lot of lawyers that they don't have an office, they don't have a real practice, but they have a yellow page ad. And all it says is, are you upset? Are you upset at your employer? And that's pretty much their overhead. And all they do is, because they understand most business owners don't carry employment practices liability. And that's a gap where they can exploit, because anyone who's ever been fired or upset, anyone who doesn't want to work and realizes that there's a way that I can go squeeze money out of my previous employer or my current employer, they'll go and call up that yellow page ad. And there's in the standard general liability or business owner package policy, it doesn't cover the employment practices. When I sat down with him and sort of reviewed where he was at, I was telling him, hey, I noticed you don't have employment practices. I really think you need to get this in place, because in the restaurant industry, what's unique about it is a lot of other, almost every other industry, when an employee comes on, there's an employment contract specific to the responsibilities of this individual, how much they're getting paid, so forth and so on. They're signing off on it. There's some documentation. Now, the restaurant industry is one where a lot of the staff are really verbally said, okay, I'm going to bring you on for 20 hours. I mean, your pay is this much. Show up. They get them onto the payroll service, but outside of that, there's no real contract. So it really exposes restaurant owners for lawsuits, because and it's happened, and it happens all the time, where someone is hired and say, oh, you know what? I was actually hired on as your general manager, and I should have got paid $60,000 a year. And they're saying, no, what are you talking about? You had no experience. Business owners, like, why would I hire you as my general manager? You've never done even waiting tables in your entire life. No, you told me this is what I was hired on for. So I had just told him, hey, listen, this is really important coverage. I really think you should look into having us place this coverage for you, because it's the second highest claims in California. And the reason, nowadays, this was probably about 5-6 years ago, but today in California, the lowest deductible that I've been able to find on a standalone right now, pretty much they're roughly around 25,000 for the deductible on these things,
Oh my gosh.
because there's such high claims. There was a period where barely any carriers were writing employment practices because of the volume of claims. And it's not like workers' comp that's required by the state for them to carry it. So we ended up putting it in place for him. And then about 2 years after that, he had a claim exactly sort of the way I explained it. And the business owner came back and said, listen, that's crazy. You won't believe it, but exactly what you told me, exactly this is what happened. The guy's claiming this, and he's coming after us. And I told him, I said, look, a lot of times by having it in place, it really makes it go away, because the other lawyer realizes that there's coverage, that it's going to pay for defense costs. They're not squeezing you and your time and your money. They know that there's an insurance policy in place and there's a lawyer. So most of the time it'll make it go away. In this case, it didn't make it go away, but the fact that he didn't have to reach into his own pocket to pay that defense cost. And most of them are frivolous anyways. The whole purpose of it is to just settle. And it's always like $30K. And I told them, I said, look, they're going to ask you, they're going to first start at maybe $100,000, and then they're going to try to settle for 30, because that's like the sweet spot number that they're always come back at. And that's what they try to settle for 30. So yeah, I mean, it's those type of situations, and it's those experiences that really make those relationships stronger relationships, where when we first walk in, they may have just looked at us as solicitors, but then it becomes, hey, you know what? I could trust this guy. He's on my side. It's a different relationship once they get an idea that we're not just trying to push a policy on them, that we're actually looking to look at their potential risks and liabilities and build something around that. Yeah, I mean, that's
100%. That's an amazing story, and it shows firsthand. Yeah, I mean, you don't know until, but that's what the power of testimonials and referrals of happy clients. But yeah, that guy is not going to go to anybody else ever again for
yeah,
insurance.
yeah, yes. And they
Taking from
refer, and that's where all those referrals come in too, because they went through that experience with you and they realized that exactly as you had predicted it, something was going to happen and you prepared for it. And so then they're referring a lot of people to you. So that now they're trusting you with more than just that, what you initially walked in with.
hmm Speaking of referrals, I wanted to kind of get your opinion here, but my dad has had a business for whatever, 40 years almost, right? He doesn't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. A lot of that I feel like is going away with today's day and age, but wanted to get your opinion while you brought up referrals. What is your method of bringing in new clients and of growth? And yeah, what is your plan for growth in the next 5, 10 years?
Yeah, the right now we're somewhat old school. Like I said, a lot of my background is in sales, and I'm one of the few people that you'll ever meet that actually enjoys cold calling. Even though I don't do it really, I really enjoyed it back in the day at the agency for many years. I did do the cold calling. Now I have other folks who do it for me, but the sales process, I really I liked it. I liked the process of cold calling, and we still do cold calling today. Like some of the best accounts that we've received are that we have today. That some of them were very small and grew with us, and some of them were very big accounts that all came from cold calling. Really, that and referrals is really the best of our business. We tried for a period to do like internet leads. The stuff that comes through internet leads hasn't been great. Like the quality, a lot of them is like not serious folks, businesses. A lot of times, more established businesses, they're not really looking to go online to try to find someone because there's so many people knocking out their door normally who's going after their business that they already have a ton of options. They're not searching for really anything else because everyone's always at their door trying to win their business over.
Right.
I know some agents who are killing it in internet leads and so forth and so on. It's just till today, really referrals and cold calling has been our best clients. So we have staff who dedicated to just cold call all day and then connect that client to me or that prospect to me. For growth, I think like one thing that I'm not myself, just with the other things that are on my day to day, I do understand where everything is headed right now in marketing. It's really social media. There's an aspect of social media that to a certain extent you're not fully comfortable with, in the sense that nowadays like there's very little that is real, and social media has really been built around a good portion of it, unfortunately, is a level of facade that's out there, and people who aren't very busy with other stuff, they're making social media posts, but it's just very hard to be able to gauge what's real versus what's not. But at the same time, that is where everything is. At the end of the day, that's where the market is. That's where the people are. So there's an importance to it, but of course, it has that large flaw in the sense that there's such a level of facade in it that it's for me personally, I haven't really engaged it as much as I should. I'm more busy on the phone with clients and so forth and so on. But I know that's really where our growth is. So I think like I am looking to bring someone on in-house. And before, when you look at the agency's budget, you'd always look at like sales folks, producers and so forth. Now, because of how digitized the world has become, now that salary sort of allocation, I'm looking into an in-house marketer who would help to be able to produce content for us to put it on to the digital space, because it's as important as a salesperson is, or as an appointment center.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the more touch points we can have across different medias,
Yes.
like they see Tareq and they're like, that's my guy. Like
Yeah.
I saw him here, I heard him here, he did this thing
Yeah.
here, and it just like
Yeah.
helps. I mean that's like the slower part, and then there's obviously there's the different aspects of the media there.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's awesome. There was something that you had mentioned in that I was wanting to talk about, but then I just got enthralled with the whole conversation there. So it's awesome. If you could give any piece of advice to an agent starting out, little baby Tareq, just graduating out of college, getting his feet wet at AAA, what would be that piece of advice to be able to grow to where you're at now?
Yeah, it's the advice would mostly be have a focus on retention and understanding that retention is a big part of winning it in the insurance industry. And all of that's really based around relationships. Don't ever underestimate relationships and underestimate the prospects that you currently have. Because a lot of times as salespeople, especially if you come from different industries, if you have a sales background, you're sort of almost the MO in a lot of sales industries is make a sale, close it down, move on, go to the next one, continue to bring clients in. And in the insurance industry, I think every industry is different. I think the insurance industry is one where, of course, you're going to have to continue to make sales, but a lot of times we undervalue the clients that we've already brought in, and not only cross-selling and getting sort of more in-depth book with each one of those clients, but like building on those existing relationships. Because once you've been in it for a while, I still value really the clients. I was looking through one of the clients that we've had, and I was just looking through their files, and I'm like, oh my God, like when you're looking at 16 years, 17 years of policy paperwork, and you're like, man, this guy's been with us since pretty much the beginning, and they're now close to retirement. And it's weird, you're almost, to a certain extent, it's like an extended family member. You've known them for so long and you've dealt with them for so long that when he mentioned retirement, like there was a sadness, like, man, I don't want you to retire. We've had a lot of history together. So it's those relationships really that make, because everything else is like insurance. It's really the people that you're dealing with and the clients that you care for that really is what stays with you. It's not really the policies that you've written, all that other stuff over the years, especially if you've been in it for a while. It's really the folks, clients of ours who have passed away, people that you end up seeing around town, and they're not here. So it's those relationships, I think, that's initially undervalued because you come from a lot of sales industries that are, hey, close the sale down, put it aside, move on, continue. This is a numbers game, so forth and so on. So value the relationships, because it's really what's, many years later you look back on, and that's what really stays with you.
Yeah, yeah. I see trends even online. It lags behind, right? But humans value that connection, and that's what has helped you probably with your retention because you focused and it's not been necessarily a numbers game. But I even look online and we've had these, like, in a marketing sense, the algorithms and whatever they call them, Google slaps and Facebook slaps and stuff like that, where people were focusing on SEO and their whole website was just like insurance agency, insurance agent, like just
Yeah,
a whole bunch of
bunch of
garbage that
keywords.
nobody's ever going to use. And
Yeah,
then they were ranked high and getting traffic to their website. And then as technology evolves, it slaps that out. And then it's like, okay, how long are people actually spending on your website? And then it even slaps that, and it's like, how are people interacting with you on social media? And that shows, like, are you a real business? Because businesses have that. So it's like the whole business is now just like it's harder to it's getting harder to just fake
yeah,
stuff. I agree, there is still like somewhat of a facade that people can put on with social media, but it might be a short term thing, and then there will be another Facebook and Google slap that, yeah, ultimately it's the true business that is long lasting.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Oh, I
Are
agree
there any other
100%.
anything else that you kind of wanted to share while I got you on here? Super thankful for your time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Nothing. Is just, I think for all the insurance folks, especially if you're out in California, it's a very trying time for people who've been in insurance, especially for a while. It's never been like this before. So it's that with technology, like there's a lot of discussion in the industry right now about the role of with AI. What is that going to mean for the role? And this was even before AI sort of rolled out. They were talking about what is the role of insurance agents, insurance brokers, when you're able to automate so much nowadays and so forth. That plus what's happening in the property market that's sort of happening, that's causing a lot of problems, not just in personal lines, but also in commercial auto, being very unprofitable in a lot of industries. It's very unique times right now. Like for the agents and brokerages who are able to sort of adapt to that, I think they're going to be able to survive this. I know there's a lot of agencies closing down right now. And also there's a lot of conglomerization right now. Big money is starting to buy out a lot of smaller agencies. And so there's a lot happening, but for the agents who have the will and are looking to adapt and put new technologies into operations and into their own agencies, I think there's hope for the future. Otherwise, with all these changes, it is tough to do business right now. But at the same time, premiums with the premium increases, it also means there's increased revenues. It's just harder to write business. Yeah, and implementing AI, some people see it as a threat. It's also something that a lot of agencies have adapted to and utilized themselves in customer interaction. And so there's the double-edged sword of that. But yeah, adaptation is really, at this point, I think it's as important as it's ever been to adapt to the technologies that are happening, especially with a few years back with InsurTech starting to become a real big thing in insurance. It's happening on the carrier side and the wholesaler side, but really as the end point, us being the retailers, we have to be able to utilize a lot of that now to be able to keep up with clients. And the expectations of the clients have changed. 20 years ago, the expectations of our clients were totally different than they are today.
Hmm.
My clients want everything on demand when they want it, access to documents. I have a question, it needs to be answered right now versus 20 years ago, that wasn't necessarily as much the case as it is today. So it's
Hmm.
just a on-demand world now that we have to be able to keep up with.
Yeah, yeah. I think those are really good points, and absolutely the ability to adapt is critical in any industry, no matter where you are, but especially yes with AI and everything changing, and it's changing faster and faster every year. So adapt or get left behind, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, the speed of change is insane right now. Like
Yeah.
change has always been there, but I think it's exponentially increasing the speed of change, and it's not easy for us as the retailers because there's so much other responsibilities that we have, but setting some time aside to be able to educate ourselves on the technology that's changing, and then also what takes even more time is implementing it on the operational side.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One last question here for you. This is the one that I love asking everybody. If you had a magic wand and you could solve the biggest issue that you face today and it would just disappear and you don't have to deal with it, what would you wave that magic wand at?
Actually, this is a technology one. So, from the world of being an insurance broker, there's so many different systems and there's so many different um, markets. One of our biggest challenges is really the volume of different markets that we have to pursue. And then just transferring is really, at the end of the day, so much of our job is data transfer. And in the age of technology, I don't understand why we're still so archaic and antiquated in our industry. And it doesn't make sense. So really having, like, there really should be, if I had a magic wand, it would be one single system that was built around insurance brokers that dealt with managing their staff, clock in, clock out, sales management, task management, marketing, and also being able, have the comparative raters for both personal lines and commercial lines built into it, and being able to connect to both the standard markets and E&S markets. Then all we do is data transfer. We talk to the client tells us information, then we take that and then have another conversation with an underwriter. And then outside of that conversation with the underwriter, they want us to send, some places still are using Accord forms, right? So we're having to fill out, these archaic old forms, filling out 5 or 6 pages for little bits of information.
Yeah.
So it's just like, the magic wand, I think I think it can be done. I think a lot of the frustration is, why is it still so archaic the way we're transferring data at the end of the day? So, and a single system that enables us to be able to manage as an entrepreneur and as a business owner, so we're not having to log into so many systems and so many disconnected pieces of information. I know there's Zapier and all these other technologies that are out, but Zapier is only as good as the endpoints that they deal with, and the APIs and the webhooks, or the different insurance systems that they hook into. And our insurance systems are still very archaic and doesn't really transfer a lot of information. So that would probably be the one thing I think that would help our industry and really streamline and really cut down on dual entry and spending, you should people have walked into my office. I have an extremely large widescreen monitor, and they'll look across it and they see all the tabs that are open on a daily basis. And I'm like, yeah, those are all the systems that I have to log into on a daily basis and switch back and forth between. And it's just unnecessary.
I 100% agree. And I'm glad technology is advancing for a lot of that. I mean, I'm glad that I wasn't writing insurance when you were running out to somebody's house with a paper form and then actually delivering the policy to them and
Uh-huh.
like doing
Yeah.
everything. It's come a long ways. But yeah, if anybody is listening to the podcast, there you go. And you're a tech developer,
Yeah.
we would love it. So
Someone can
awesome.
solve this problem. I'm sure it's a multi-billion-dollar solution.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully it'll get done. And Tareq, it's been awesome having you on here. Appreciate your time, expertise, the advice that
Absolutely.
you've given everybody. And anybody who's listening to the podcast here, make sure you share it, like it, DM it to people who need to hear this, because here on the podcast, we really pull back the curtain. We interview leaders, agents, brokers, IMOs, FMOs, and just get a whole bunch of perspectives on the insurance industry. And today we had Tareq on here, and he was really dropping a lot of gold on commercial lines and his journey. So again, we appreciate it. This was the Insurance Playbook Podcast, and this is sponsored by Spark AI Partners. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you so much.